So we'll talk more about automatic and remote control, some more band-specific rules, uh, operating with in and with foreign countries, more about the spurious emission standards, and there's a weird question in there about HF band modulation index limit. Not sure how that fits in with this stuff. You're allowed to do automatic control of a digital station anywhere above 50 megahertz and some portions of HF bands. You can do automatic RTTY in the 6 meter and up, and apparently some of the lower segments. If you're trying to make contact with a digital station that's outside the automatic control band segment, you have to do it under local or remote control as opposed to automatic. So they just don't want to allow an automatic to automatic communications. On what bands may automatically controlled stations transmitting RTTY or data emissions communicate with other automatically controlled digital station? What's required to conduct communications with a digital station operating under automatic control outside the automatic control band segments? When may third-party messages be transmitted via remote control? Okay, so they define three kind of control methods: local, remote, and automatic. So it's called local when the control operator is physically there, twiddling knobs, pushing buttons. It's remote when you're operating over the internet or some other link. You're physically not present, but you're still the control operator and you're still controlling the transmitter.
Would that be like wires X or something?
Oh, I don't know about wires X, but there's just several on there where you can do remote control of other radios over the internet. Yeah. In one of them, you pay a fee. There's another free one. And you can set it up, there's some radios you can set up to do it yourself, where you can sit in the living room and operate your radio out in the shack. If you really want to operate from your recliner.
Yeah, they're really new icons. It's like it has a separate control head and like Ethernet too.
Yeah, you can actually get an encoder that's USB that you plug into your laptop. You can sit there and tune it.
It would be a Rhoda recliner, maybe.
Maybe you can get a fancy recliner with it all built in.
Yeah.
And then automatic control is when there's no control operator present and essentially usually a repeater, it's operating on its own. You do have to have some mechanism in case of malfunction that it'll shut it down after on or before 3 minutes. Some sort of fail-safe. Yeah. And usually that's one of the things is somebody inadvertently keys the mic and keeps the repeater keyed up. Most of them are set up so they'll drop out after 3 minutes. A lot of the radio repeaters are controlled on the 220 link also by radio. They're talking about telecommand, where it's an ambush station on or within 50 kilometers of the Earth's surface, may be telecommanded. So you have an Earth station and a space station. It's called a space station if it's more than 50 kilometers up. If it's 40 kilometers, I don't know what it is. It's fast moving. Of course, if it was a balloon, less than 50 kilometers, I guess you could be controlling it. Usually they're one way, but what's the maximum permissible duration of a remotely controlled station's transmissions if its control link malfunctions? It's kind of the same stuff. This is the part of the where they spelled it out in the Part 97. When a station is being automatically controlled, let's see, you don't have to have an operator at the control point. Their example is most repeaters operate that way. There is a restriction for automatically controlled stations that you can never originate third-party communications. And in order to do third party, you have to have a control operator that's licensed. So in other words, I guess technically, if you want to show a kid how amateur radio works with your handy talkie, you have to press the transmit button to let them talk. And I guess there's a little exception there for RTTY, where you can do third party. Don't really understand that one. Under what situation may a station transmit third-party communications while being automatically controlled? I guess that was there just for that question.
Seems like.
Okay, more on the 630 and 2200. Basically the same thing as before. You can do the entire band with RTTY and data. And phone and image. So according to that, you have to notify the UTC if you intend to operate on the 2200 and 630 bands in those particular frequencies, and give them your band or frequency of operation and the coordinates of your antenna. and you cannot operate for 30 days after you submit your request, unless they object and say your antenna is in the wrong location or something. So on what portion of the 630 meter band are phone emissions permitted? Delta. What notifications must be given before transmitting on this 30 or 2200 meter bands? Let's see. Oh, this is one of the reasons for that is the utility companies use some of those frequencies for control of substations and things.
They don't have to read your FPL meters now.
Huh?
They don't have to read, they don't, people have to come look at your FPL meter.
When I worked for the power company as an intern in college, we did all that stuff over the power line.
Yeah, that's right. And you should remember, yeah, college station, you can carry your current AM, you just put it into the power line. Something like that.
How long must an operator wait after filing a notification with the UTC before operating on the 2200 or 630 meter bands? Foreign country operation. This is where a lot of people use the remote operation, where you can operate a station in Australia or Korea or someplace. In those cases, you have to abide by the other country's regulations. And usually, I think you operate with their call sign, maybe / your call sign. I see that a lot in the contest where they go to Curacao and places, you know. If you're operating a U.S. station from outside the country, then you have to be U.S. licensed. To do it in the other country, you have to have their license. I know Gary does a lot of that. He operates a station in Australia a lot, but he's got an Australia license also. Huh?
Is it all countries or just some that require the extra license for operation?
I believe all countries require you to be licensed in their country.
In order to get that license, some countries require, or the U.S. or somebody requires that we have an extra class license.
That I don't know. And Canada may be an exception because of the reciprocity thing.
Yeah, I think that's an FCC regulation. And in order for FCC to let you be licensed elsewhere, you must be an extra.
I don't know about that.
I think the PCARS guys that go to Curacao made some comment about that a while back.
Really? I don't know. Something I'll ask about.
I had a
I
friend.
don't remember anything that I've seen in the FCC rules about having to be an extra to do that.
I had a friend who's now passed away, but in Rockledge, who only operated out of his call signs in Croatia. I'm pretty sure he was extra class, but his only operation was from outside the country.
Huh. I would think, depending on the band, I mean, if you were on 2 meters, you'd only have to be a technician. But
Just repeating something I saw or heard about from Pico.
okay. When operating a U.S. station by remote control from outside the U.S., what license is required of the control operator? Alpha. When operating a station in South America by remote control over the internet from the U.S., what regulations apply? FCC doesn't get a vote. If you're in a different ITU region, then they all have different frequency privileges and bands. All of North and South America, that sort of 1/3 of the Earth, is region 2. The Guam is in region 3, so I guess that would be all of Asia would be region 3. So Europe must be 1.
Yeah, Europe and
So if Europe's 1, how'd we get? Oh, because they're going westward. Okay.
yeah, and when I looked at the map and pulled it up and looked at it, Europe and Russia are region 1, and then
European Russia. There's 2 Russias, European and Asian Russia.
okay, yeah, so Asia, the southern part is all in the region 3.
First time I saw that, it confused me. And doing FT8, and you get stations in European Russia and Asian Russia. Not too many in Asian Russia. What frequency allocations of which ITU region apply to radio amateurs operating in North and South America? That's a weird
I
question.
had to have a fourth answer here.
I know the answer. I don't quite. That question is really worded weird. Okay, there's IARP and CEPT licenses. The IARP is the International Amateur Radio Permit, which allows amateurs to operate in certain countries in North and South America, so obviously other than the US. The CEPT, which is probably on the next slide, is for operating in Europe. So there's a list of countries that accept the IARP. And you have to apply for it so that you can operate in those countries. So what is meant by IARP? CEPT is equivalent thing except for Europe. It's called the what is it? Oh, didn't define it. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, except E is Europe, I'm pretty sure. And I guess there's 160 other countries that it will apply to, so they can operate in the US. And if you plan to operate under the SEPT agreement, you have to have on you a copy of FCC Public Notice DA 16-048. I have no, set a public notice, so I guess it's just something verifying the SEPT agreement. I don't really know. I haven't looked up.
SEP stands for European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications Administrators.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe it's in French.
Which of the following operating arrangements allows an FCC licensed U.S. citizen to operate in many European countries and alien amateurs from many European countries to operate in the U.S.? Which of the following is required in order to operate in accordance with SEP rules in foreign countries where permitted? Now, if you're an alien operating here, what do you have to bring?
Good question. Yes, that's good.
Oh, and this is, I always like this one. Transmissions to a different country where permitted shall be limited to communications incidental to the purposes of the amateur service and to remarks of a personal character. I've never understood what all that means, but there's a couple key words, incidental and personal character, and that's all you need to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of the following apply to communications transmitted to amateur stations in foreign countries? Charlie. Third party is a way that persons who are not licensed radio amateurs can transmit messages to other amateurs. One of the restrictions is you can't have been a licensed amateur and had your license revoked. Then you cannot do third party even though you're not licensed. And when you're doing third party with another country, you have to make sure that it's a country where the U.S. has a third party agreement. What are the restrictions on messages sent to a third party in a country in which there is a third party agreement? No, disqualified third party. So if you had your license revoked or never reinstated, I'm not sure if that implies that you let it expire. I would think not being reinstated means you let it expire and never renewed it.
I think revoke, because then you see a license that revoke, you can just work or do it on the air. It might be.
Which of the following would disqualify a third party from participating in sending a message via an amateur station? More on spurious emissions. Okay, so 10 meters and below, it's got to be 43 dB below the mean power of the fundamental. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize it was that long ago. They changed it in 2003 to the 43. I believe it was 35 up to that time. So if you buy an old transmitter that was certified before 2003, it may not meet today's standards. I don't know if you're still allowed to use it. I guess it's probably grandfathered in, right?
That's why they had to find a station installed with it. Yeah, you have to buy a house too.
Let's see. Bandwidth. We talked about the 60-meter band is the 2.8 kilohertz. And they define bandwidth, the nice legal one, the width of a frequency band outside of which the mean power of the transmitted signal is attenuated at least 26 dB below the mean power of the transmitted signal within the band. I always thought it was the 3 dB down points. So what's the maximum bandwidth for a data emission on 60 meters? What's the maximum mean power level for a spurious emission below 30 megahertz with respect to the fundamental emission? And here's the modulation index. The no angle modulated emission may have a modulation index greater than 1 at the highest modulation frequency.
What is angle modulation?
Phase,
Oh.
and I guess frequency, not AM. What is the highest modulation index permitted at the highest modulation frequency for angle modulation below 29 megahertz? We talked about automatically controlled digital stations in the 6 meter and above, and some limited segments in HF. Automatically controlled digital stations, when you contact it outside of the automatic control band, it has to be under local or remote. Can only do third party when it's RTTY or data. I guess when you're doing third party RTTY is somebody, it's a third party typing, right?
Yes.
Repeaters have to be, or remote controlled, automatic controlled stations have to have a fail-safe to limit transmissions to no more than 3 minutes in case of some malfunction or link failure. The 630 meter band, you have to operate, you have to inform the UTC with your call sign and the coordinates of the antenna. And you have to wait 30 days. You can do the entire band for phone, data, image, RTTY.
And I think they changed the wording on that a little bit. And I think it used to be that you had to wait 30 days if you heard nothing. Otherwise, if you received the authorization before the 30 days, then you weren't good to go.
Yeah, that's probably true. I would assume, might be wrong, that they would inform you of they approved it, or because they'll tell you if they didn't because you're too close to a PLC system. And when you're operating with foreign countries, communications have to be limited to the incidental and remarks of a personal nature. So what does that mean you can't talk about? Actually, they never spell that out. You can't do profanity, but there's nothing against politics, although I don't think they recommend it. To operate from a foreign country, to a U.S. station, you have to have a U.S. license. If you're operating from the U.S. to a foreign country, you have to have a license and follow whatever rules are appropriate for that country. We're in Region 2 of the ITU, which covers all of North and South America. So if you want to operate in Canada or Mexico or Argentina, you need to apply for an IARP. If you're doing Europe, you need a CEPT and have a copy of whatever that public notice is. Third-party traffic is when you're allowing a non-licensed operator to communicate, but someone has to be licensed, has to be the control operator. And again, you can only talk about those personal character things and emergencies or disaster relief. You can't do third party if you have been licensed and it's been revoked or not reinstated. Okay, I guess that means it could have been revoked and you somehow got it reinstated, then you're okay.
Yeah, if you appealed it and then kind of reinstated. That's why I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Thinking of the lawyer speaker.
Bandwidth on 60 meters, they seem to really be hung up on that, is 2.8 kilohertz. Power for spurious emissions is 43 dB down from the fundamental. And the modulation index limit for angle modulation is 1.0 for 10 meters and below.